In this video, I'm going to share the 7 most important habits when it comes to having higher testosterone. If you can implement them immediately and you'll notice effects within the week and possibly within the day or two. Well, let's get into the video. Hey, I hope you're having a good day. In this video, I'm going to be sharing the 7 high testosterone habits that made my testosterone over 1500 nanograms per deciliter 100% naturally. And while that sounds nice as a number, and I definitely talk about it with the boys and show off, what we really care about is the transformation I went through from 18 to 25 as a result of implementing this. And on the left, I had no drive. I was really depressed. I delayed puberty. I was super embarrassed about it because I felt like I wasn't masculine at all. I had no charisma or confidence, and I was weak and small. Overall, I was just like an E-rank anime character. Whereas on the right, I have no ED, very masculinized, have lots of energy and drive to get stuff done. And it's really, really nice. And I have way more confidence and charisma. I'm a lot stronger and way more jacked. Overall, I would say I'm an S rank. You could say I'm an SS rank anime character, but I feel like I need better fighting skills and tricking skills and maybe some magic powers to be double S or even triple S rated. And if you just look here at my face, and like this is incredible. Because I didn't even like notice this until I was looking at these pictures, but you can see how my face was much narrower over here, and then it's much wider over here. My nose and my hands are the exact same size, but it's like I've grown into them. The bones of my face have gotten much wider since I was 18. I have gotten much wider. And it's all because of what I call test maxing. Some of the stuff I started doing when I was 18, which was lifting. And then the other things I started doing, like taking care of my sleep and my nutrition, which I'm going to be talking about, and some of the other mindset stuff I've implemented over the years, came at 21, and then some of it has only come in the past few years, as I'm always trying to learn and grow and improve. But if I had done all of this sooner, I could be a few inches taller, I could have way more muscle. I can only imagine, and I hate the thought of me losing out on progress, and I want to share the lessons I wish I'd known earlier to save you time and get you better results. And the most important one is mindset. Everything starts with your mindset. We are spirit first and foremost, but without the proper mindset in place, you can't really do anything in life. So you need to work on your mindset. And this is when we go into the Nietzsche quote of "He who has a why can bear almost any how." If your why is strong enough, it doesn't matter what you have to do, which is why I put why I put Sisyphus and Atlas on this page. Another quote, in order to give you context, would be the one from Marcus Aurelius, where he talks about a man seeking to escape suffering through comfort, only to find himself suffering in his comfort. Suffering is inherent to your life as a man. As soon as you accept that, it's ironic, but you stop suffering. We need work and purpose to suffer for. That's why I put this image of Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill, who smiled when he found out he had to do that, because he had work he could do for eternity. Even though it's the same thing day in and day out, he had the work that he knew he had to do, and so he was content. Here's a picture of Atlas holding up the earth. Now, this was a punishment, but I wanted to demonstrate that it takes a lot of strength to hold the weight of the world on your shoulders. And we get stronger with the increased, this is why it's very important to understand strength training. As you progressively increase the weight of your responsibilities, you increase your strength. So you need to be strong to hold up the earth, but sometimes you become strong by holding up the earth. And in order to program you with the right mindset to become strong, you need purpose, vision, and goals that you set and you pursue. Men who are purpose-driven have higher testosterone. You will not know what it is like to live life as a high testosterone man until you have a goal or a purpose or a vision for yourself that is pulling you forward into the future, that you are focused on accomplishing every single day, that you're sacrificing everything for. There's nothing like that feeling. There's nothing like throwing away everything for the pursuit of one thing that you're focused on, you want more than everything else. It can be just an ideal you want to become. It can be creating a career for yourself or creating wealth. That's going to be entirely up to you. I believe in creating excellence in your life holistically. When it comes to your career or your vision, it's going to be entirely unique to you, your story, and your interests, which everyone should have a career in. You are going to be able to do so much service to the world if you are pursuing something you're interested in or passionate about or curious about, because you are going to actually want to learn about it. And you are going to learn it way more in depth than anyone else because it's not work to you, it's play. So figure out a vision and a purpose for your life that makes you leap out of bed every single morning. And then find ways to ingrain competition into your life by having that revolve around a sport, your business, and by creating challenges for you to tackle every single day, week, month, and year. This will spike your testosterone. Increased competition is directly increased to having higher testosterone. Whether it's being competitive with yourself or being competitive with other men, competing to win is high testosterone. There's a positive feedback loop between the two. So engage in it. And then I want you to engage in delayed gratification. This is, yes, for the personal development and self-actualization and because it's a principle of being successful and just a component of you need to do anything in life. If you actually want to accomplish something, you have to delay gratification because nothing worth accomplishing is going to come immediately. Now, but you can implement this and you have to implement this as an aspect of self. So there is no more instant gratifying anything. Instant gratification is going to be directly linked to having low testosterone. Instant gratification makes you weak. So ditch all the instant gratification and pursue delayed gratification. In investing, learning, building instead of consuming, taking the easy way out, or looking for answers from other people or the certain path, pursue delayed gratification. If you're in the gym, don't take the PEDs. Do it naturally. Instead of looking to hook up with random girls, work on yourself, find the girl that you need to get married to, and then engage in intimacy. Leadership and risk-taking. Take initiative and give direction for your own life. This is your life. Be the leader of your own life. No one else is going to follow you. No girl is going to follow you. No one in the company is going to follow you unless you are leading yourself. So you have to be the leader. Take risks. This is so misconstrued. Risk-taking has nothing to do with being an adrenaline junkie. That's exciting, but it's not. It's just, I don't want to say stupid, but silly. And I'm not like shaming anyone who does those things. I have some friends who do that, and that's fine. And sometimes it's fun. But risk-taking has nothing to do with cliff jumping, skydiving, racing super fast cars. Those are risky, but what being a risk-taking man means is creating your own path and not walking on a certain path. And you have to understand that if someone else has laid out a path before you, it's not a path worth following. And you are going to be more successful and more content with your life if you create your own path, which come from your own vision, following your own interests, and pursuing your own goals. Now, we're going to go down to stoicism and emotional regulation. If you want to embody the mindset and character of a high testosterone man, you need to know what it means to emotionally regulate yourself and be more stoic. It means that you are the observer in your sea of thoughts, and you're not your thoughts in and of themselves. You're the one listening to the thoughts. You're a rock in the ocean of your emotions. You're not. You need to learn how to pause between you getting a stimulus like a thought or an emotion and taking action. Too many men will get a thought or an emotion and just let it take over them. How weak are you if you let thought or emotion dictate whatever you do? At that point, you are entirely at the whim of externals. Anything that happens can trigger you to do something that you don't want to do and act out of alignment with the person you want to be. So practice being totally unreactive. And this doesn't mean that you don't feel emotions. There's a difference between being stoic and being emotionally dead. There's a difference between being a feeling man and being an emotionally reactive man or a wimp. You can cry and be extremely masculine and still be stoic. You can cry when you see your dad die or your mom die or someone close to you die. There's nothing wrong with that because that's just being human. And if anybody thinks you're weak for that, they're probably not someone you want to have around. But if you're crying because life's hard or because you're not getting what you want or you're just a child or because you're weak, that's a different thing. Then that's cause to reevaluate yourself and find a way to grow stronger. But if your friend dies, it's just human to cry. And you need to understand that context is everything. So nothing is good or bad. It's entirely dependent upon context. And then you need to be high effort. Give your best effort in everything you do, whether it's the gym or your nutrition or your sleep or your career or your school or your career or just everything, your relationships. Always be giving everything you have. The more effort you give out, the more you will get from things. That's just the nature of the universe. You will have more energy by giving more energy. So give all the energy you possibly can all the time. And do not let your mind or your emotions or your state of being ever tell you to not give all of your effort or energy. That's an illusion. You are energy. Then we want to get on to discipline. Denying yourself fleeting pleasures and thrills for your vision. If your vision and goals for your life are actually things you want to do and are exciting to you, and then you're not really going to have to worry about denying yourself or be disciplined. Because if, like, when I was a swimmer, you could not, like, going out to drink or party or smoke, like, that wasn't even a thing for me because it would directly hurt my ability to do the thing I wanted, right? And if you actually want to do something, and that's kind of the hardest thing for most people, is just figuring out what they want, and you do have to, like, kind of try different things to figure out what you want ultimately, then like, you're not going to be tempted. But if you ever are going through a hard time or obstacles or struggles, that's always going to be when you're tested with temptations or weakness. So in those moments, you have to be disciplined and deny yourself for your greater vision, and remember that. And the universe will test you. So always stay focused on what you want. Part of this is just part of the hardest thing is, like, just figuring out what you want. And I'm telling you this because there are going to be things, like, that you just inherently want. Like, if you want relationships or women, like, there's like get a wife, or, like, be a man who can have a wife. If you're going to have to make money, find a way to make money in a way that you enjoy. If you're going to have a body, find a way to make that body as strong and healthy as capable as you can. If you're going to have a mind, make it as strong and healthy and capable as you can. Aside from that, your path is entirely your own. Your goals are entirely your own. There's the things that are unique to you in your path, and then there's the things that you're going to have to do just as a human being. And then the other part of this is just believing in yourself. Believe in yourself that you can do what you set your mind to. Now, if the thing you want is like amazing to you and you just love it, you're not even going to worry about yourself. You're not going to think about yourself. But there might be doubts and traumas and negative beliefs about yourself that hold you back. So you need to believe in yourself, because your determination to do what you set out to do, if it's something great, is going to be something that you can't look to anyone else or even evidence in order to tell you that it's possible. You just have to be that determined in making it a reality. Think about Elon Musk, creating self-driving cars and putting rockets into space. If he had, like, looked to anyone else for approval or their validation in his idea, or for them to tell him it could work, then it wouldn't happen. But he believed it could work. And part of this is just believing that you can, because it has nothing to do with who you are and everything to do with whether or not it can be done. But that's very mutual to your belief in yourself. So practice believing in yourself. Tell yourself that you can. Then progress. Focus on forward progress every single day. The actually accomplishing things and getting results and things come from compounding interests in long-term pursuits. There's no way around it. You're not going to be Michael Phelps tomorrow. And if you want to be him in 10 years, or, you know what I'm saying, being really good at swimming in 10 years, you got to focus. Your focus just has to be on getting a little better every single day, whether it's improving, like, a flip turn or a piece of your stroke, or getting a little faster. All those little things add up. And then the last thing, and the most important thing, is just putting your faith in God, that He will help you on your path. He will guide you on your path, and He's going to make sure everything works out okay for you. So here's some action steps. Create a vision for yourself and your life. Write out daily action steps to accomplish it. If you want to be jacked and lean, go to the gym. Your daily action steps are eating healthy, going to the gym, and going to bed on time and doing cardio. There you go. Pray daily to the Most High. Pray daily to God. Ask Him for guidance. Ask Him for His help. Thank Him for the wonderful life He has given you and for the opportunity and gifts He already bestows upon you. Then do your best in everything. If you ever catch yourself not giving your best effort, redo it with your best effort. When you're going into relation, if you have a friendship, do your best to help that person. Do your best to lift them up. Focus on progress. Write down everything you do in all your endeavors and your action steps, and find ways to improve them every single day, and write them down. It's very important that you write them down. Then find ways to be more competitive in your work, in your career, with your friends. If it's sport, like, compete. To even get a friend that you can beat, that you tell that you want to beat, and try to beat them. There's nothing wrong with that. And then make affirmations every single day that make you believe in yourself. No one's going to tell you the things that you want to hear except for you. So put that power in your own hands and say that you love yourself, that you're disciplined. Create yourself. I'm disciplined. I'm loved. I'm smart. I am intelligent. I'm in touch with the universe. I am kind. I'm virtuous. I am healthy. I am disciplined. I go to bed on time. I go to the gym. I am strong. I'm fast. I'm powerful. I'm I'm coordinated. Get the beliefs that reinforce the reality you want in your head and focus on doing those often. Then rule your own thoughts and emotions. Put the thoughts, this goes in line with the affirmations, but put the thoughts you want in your head. If you ever catch yourself, your mind going out of control, tell it what to say. And then for your emotions, you basically shift your emotions by shifting your perspective on things. It's all, and then if you need actual help with that, and let's say you get angry because someone cuts you off, instead of honking or having a big reaction or letting yourself get angry, pause and practice being calm. And understand that by getting angry, you give all your power to that other person. Now, physical training. Very big on physical training. No man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable. This is a quote by Socrates, and it's heavily popularized in the fitness industry, but it is so true. Most of the greatest thinkers, like Socrates, and I believe, like Socrates, were wrestlers. They were very capable, physically capable men, and that does come down to combat ability, but it also comes down to your physicality. If you want to, you will not understand the change in your thoughts and your character that you acquire until you go through it yourself. But the body and the mind are linked, and by becoming a stronger, more capable man who's also capable of combat, you will develop a stronger mindset and a stronger character. And you just need to be physically competent and have that type of psychology in order to have high testosterone. Your thoughts affect your hormones, your emotions, everything. And how do you get a high testosterone body? You need consistent resistance training, progressive resistance training. I always recommend people start out with and focus their programs on the compound lifts because the return on your investment with those is higher. But don't let that stop you from doing other things. I just recommend these because they're very easy to progress. There's a lot of mechanical tension and they're easy to overload. So I recommend them to people who start in the gym. Squats, deadlifts, bench press, pull-ups, overhead press, rows. These are the meat and potatoes of what your training in the gym should be. It hits every muscle group. It'll make you grow. It'll make you strong. And then you want to incorporate some high intensity exercises that require more coordination and more cardiac output. And faster movements. So these are things like plyometrics, whether it's jumping or clapping push-ups, or if you can do gymnastics, practice those, progress them. Sprints. If you haven't sprinted in 10 years, work on your running volume and titrate up the intensity on sprints so you don't tear a hamstring. This might take you 3 to 6 months, but it's worth investing in. Sprinting and the nervous system benefits that come with it are going to be very, very conducive to you not aging poorly. Resistance training and sprinting is going to be very anti-aging because it demands that you don't really lose anything as you age. It's also why I recommend fighting because there's so much coordination, so many coordination demands. Like you're not going to be worried about falling because you're always getting down and getting back up. And then some great ways to work on your high intensity cardiac capacity is going to be assault bike sprints. Do 30 seconds all out 5 times, like 2 to 3 minutes of rest, 1 to 2 times a week, and you will be more prepared than like 95% of people. And then overall, you want to be doing enough cardio volume. So what does this mean? 30 to 40 minutes of low intensity steady state cardio daily. You can do this after you train or in the morning, but aim to get 5 to 10 hours in per week. If that's not necessarily 30 to 40 minutes a day, but this is like the bare minimum, but this would be really, really ideal. I was doing 15 to 20 hours, or maybe 20 hours a week when I was swimming. And that's a lot. I don't think anybody needs to do that much, but in order to be healthy, you want to be doing cardio every single day. There's no health marker that having a better aerobic health doesn't improve. And then you want to engage in physical competition. I recommend you learn a martial art as a man. I would say in order to be high testosterone, you need to learn how to fight. Physically fortified and martially capable will give you so much confidence as a man and will definitely make you higher testosterone. But if you like other sports, and this is where it's just important to do what you enjoy to engage in competition, you can play football or soccer or anything that makes you active and requires a lot of coordination and competition. And then you want to incorporate more physical activity. So on the weekend, if you want to go for a hike, explore some cool new place in nature, go for walks throughout the day. And then all this should be more conducive towards you having a more androgenic phenotype, which just means you have less fat and more muscle on your frame. And some of the best examples of this, these people are on PEDs, by the way, but they have amazing physiques and are wonderful examples of what it means to give your all to win. We have Alexander and Dimitri, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, one of the greatest weightlifters of all time. I would watch as many fights of this guy as you can, and then I would look at Dmitry Klokov's 205 pause snatch. Incredibly strong, also incredibly strong, but this is a strength athlete, and this is one of the best wrestlers to ever live. Probably the best wrestler to ever live. So here's some very basic action steps you can do. Do progressive resistance training 3 to 4 times per week. Do 30 to 40 minutes of cardio every single day. Start competing in athletic competitions and training for those 3 to 4 times a week. Good example would be Nogi Jiu-Jitsu. You could do 3 to 4 classes a week and do open mat after you train every night. Get your competitive drive up. It's a lot of fun. Make sedentary activities active. Just make them active. It doesn't have to be super complicated. Instead of sitting in a movie theater with a girl, you can go on a hike, and you're probably going to get to know her. You're going to get to know her way better by going on a hike anyway. If you're going to talk on the phone with a friend or a client, have it be while you go for a walk. Your brain will be more active, and you will actually be able to have a better conversation with either of those people and give better advice if you're active. It's a bonus if you go for a walk in the park while you do this. It's just a process of making all these little habits that you do more active, and that will give you a healthier body, better body composition, and higher testosterone. But the house that you build needs the appropriate materials. Just like you cannot build a brick house without bricks, your body cannot make hormones without the right building block nutrients. That's a quote from me. Now, we're going to get into nutrition for hormones. I will be getting into micronutrients and everything, but the most important piece of having nutrition that supports you producing higher testosterone is eating enough calories. People don't like to talk about this, but you need to be consuming adequate calories. And as a man, especially if you're a 200 plus pound man, it should be over 4,000 calories a day. And if you are not eating that much, I would examine the cardio volume you are doing. You need to be eating a lot of calories. That's just that. You need to be eating a lot of calories to hit your nutrient needs. The higher the amount of calories you eat, the faster your metabolism is going to be. And in general, if you're eating too few calories, your body will downregulate certain hormones being produced, like testosterone. It's more of a thrive and not survive molecule. So you need to be giving your body a lot of nutrients. You'll notice that certain people who do not eat enough food start to have thinner eyebrows, and it's really just because your body is trying to conserve energy. So make sure you're eating enough calories. And if you're not, if you're worried about getting fat, just do more cardio. You're better off doing more cardio and eating more food than you are by not doing cardio and eating less food. Just because you're lean doesn't mean you're healthy. A healthy person is active, and just going to the gym and being lean does not mean that you are active. It is best if you are doing activities that require a goal in mind, physical activities that require a goal in mind. But if you're not engaging in a sport all the time, at least be doing 30 to 40 minutes of cardio every single day. You will burn more calories, which drives up your calorie intake, which will make you eat more calories if you are attempting to stay at the same body weight, which will be better for your metabolism. So do more cardio if you're worried about getting fat by eating more calories, is what I'm saying. Now, let's go into nutrition qualities or nutrition quality. Really, everybody likes to overcomplicate it, but just eat real food from plants and animals of the earth. Are man-made foods bad? But in general, you should be eating animals and plants. It's just super simple way to look at it. And you want testosterone, you're going to have to optimize for that. So make sure you're eating plenty of micronutrient-dense foods that are conducive to you producing more testosterone. Great example of this is eating red meat, plenty of iron, B vitamins, protein, cholesterol. Eggs have cholesterol, fat, protein, micros. Fish, especially salmon, has enough omega-3s, protein. Oysters are very rich in zinc. Dairy has calcium and lactoferrin. All of these are going to be conducive not only to you producing more testosterone and have nutrient. Sorry, it's 100 degrees outside. So if I seem a little slow, it's not because I don't want to say this. It's because it's so hot outside. I am sweating. But all of these foods have the most important nutrients when it comes to you producing more testosterone. So make sure you're eating all of them every single day. If you are not next to the beach, maybe you don't have oysters every single day. But they will make a huge difference in how you feel. If you eat oysters every day for a week, you'll feel like a new man. Now, that doesn't mean that you cut out carbs. Too many people like to get into health and fitness or want to fix their testosterone, want to start eating healthy, and they cut out carbs entirely. When in reality, you need carbs, and they're the best fuel source, and there's no arguing against that. But I can go keto, and my body can turn fat into glucose. Why not just give it like carbohydrates? Why go the roundabout way and go like the super inefficient way and decrease your performance because you're not eating enough carbs? You're not going to get fat. If you're doing cardio, if you're doing plenty of cardio volume and you have high muscularity, you're not going to run into any issues. And if you're lean, like no issues. There's nothing wrong with eating enough carbs. You're never going to get fat because you ate too much fruit. That's extreme. Okay, if you ate tons of coconut, pineapple, mangoes, and watermelons every single day, and you had a 6,000 calorie surplus from that, you probably put on weight, right? But is that your case? Is that really your case? It's never anyone's case. So I like to focus on high vitamin C, like high water fruits. I'm big on oranges. I used to drink a liter of orange juice every jiu-jitsu practice. Watermelon, pineapple, peaches, go for it. I like berries a lot. Strawberries, blueberries, blackberries. Strawberries, you can get a lot of volume out of strawberries. Low distress, gastric distress veggies. Remember, you can only absorb what you digest. So if any of these veggies aggravate you, I would experiment with how you're cooking them, whether you're fermenting them or sauteing them. Carrots, bell peppers, spinach, and then I'm also a fan of like onions and garlic. If you have these in your diet, it'll be conducive to you having better overall health. You're going to get nutrients that you might be missing from these other foods, but you're going to be better off eating all those other foods and not having these than if it was the other way around. And then you want to be focusing on, you want to also get enough complex and just carb volume in, and that ideally would come from rice and potatoes and sweet potatoes. There are certain micros in potatoes and sweet potatoes that you want to be consuming. But let's say you're eating 5,000 calories a day and you're hitting all of your micronutrient needs at every single meal, and you just want to backfill with more carbohydrates. There's instances of people having like pancakes, but I'm not saying that's your case, right? If it was Michael Phelps who needs 10,000 calories a day, yeah, he's going to need some pancakes and waffles. Why? Because if he's eating that many calories of potatoes, it's probably going to not digest as fast, and he's going to do worse in his sport. He's not going to be unhealthy from doing that. In general, you want to avoid ultra-processed foods, fake foods with lots of dyes and preservatives and flavors. They're just not good for you or your hormones. And then you want to avoid seed oils, and you want to be avoiding sugar, alcohols, or other sweeteners that affect your digestive system. If something is giving you a lot of gastric distress, don't eat it. And then in general, you want to, this is just another good fitness advice, stay hydrated and consume enough salt to increase your performance cognitively and physically. And then avoid substances like alcohol, nicotine, and caffeine, which dehydrate you and do have a bad effect on your hormonal profile. And this is just the molecule of cholesterol being converted into testosterone. You need enough cholesterol in your diet in order to produce testosterone. It's just a building block for testosterone. So have eggs and red meat. Those two are pretty critical. And then I would highly recommend people try oysters. I'm going to start having a lot more. There's a place like down the street from my house that sells them on the weekend, because I live in a fishing town. So there's just like a jolly oyster truck that's there on the weekends. And I just found out about it. So I'm going to be eating those a lot. And then here's some action steps you can take. Very, very simple. Figure out your daily calorie needs. Buy only real food from the list I gave you. And then have each of those foods at every single meal. So if you have you don't need to go overboard, but if you have something like some cottage cheese, eggs, red meat, and potatoes for one meal, and then another one you have bison and eggs and blueberries and yogurt and maybe some sweet potato. You want to You want to hit each of those food groups at every single meal. Remember, nutrients signal information to your body and gives your body building blocks to make hormones, which signal other information to your body. Give your body as many nutrients as it needs. You're also just reducing deficiencies, and the less deficiencies in your body, the better. Now, we're going to go into sleep. Sleep is critical to testosterone production, and I like to use this quote from Matt Frazier. If sleep weren't a normal thing, it would be a banned substance. Matt Frazier is a multiple-time CrossFit champion, and so I think you should listen to his advice. Caleb Dressel, the multiple-time gold medalist and NCAA record holder, said that he would choose to miss food to sleep. And when he was sick, he would just skip his dinner and go right to bed and he'd rather get 12 hours of sleep than have dinner. Sleep is that important for your body's ability to recover. So you should optimize it. Your testosterone is made while you sleep. The signaling between the glands in your brain and the Leydig cells that produce testosterone in your testes to make the testosterone happens while you sleep. So you really want to get that down. If you want to have higher testosterone, by increasing the quality of your sleep, quantity does matter, and it should be around 8 to 9 hours every single night. But if you want to make that sleep as high quality as you can, you want to get your circadian rhythm in check. You don't need to overcomplicate that. I'll talk a bit about creating an optimal light environment to have better sleep, but it really comes down to you just having a good bedtime that you're consistent with. If you have a 9 p.m. bedtime that you are consistent with every single night, you're going to be way better off than the guy who goes to bed at 7:30 some days and not 11 other days, but is super neurotic about blue light and all this. Just go to bed at the same time every night. Talk about optimizing sleep. You really want to create a conducive light environment to you having better sleep. Now, what that means is it doesn't mean avoiding blue light in the few hours before bed. Now, I would say avoiding blue light from screens as much as you can. Although we do live in a modern world, so I'm not saying that you have to reject it entirely. But some easy practices you can use is going outside first thing in the morning and seeing the sunrise and doing the same thing at sunset. There are wavelengths of light that send different information to your brain that signal different things. Before bed, seeing the orange-red light of the sunset signals that it's time to produce melatonin and it's time to start winding down for bed. In the morning, seeing the blue light, the blue-yellow wavelengths, signals that it's time to wake up and be active. So blue light signals to your body to be awake, sympathetic, and produce cortisol, whereas red light, orange light is more rest and digest, parasympathetic. Other ways you can improve your sleep or your rest is just by doing NSDR or having strategic naps throughout the day. It can just be 20 minutes with your eyes closed and no noise with the intention of resetting, and that will work wonders. Or you can take time to just sit in a park and take a nap. Doesn't have to be super complicated. This is supposed to be a graphic on how light affects the hormones that are produced by your body based on the color of light that came in. But I was so tired when I did all this, I really didn't even read this. I was just going as fast as I could. Basically, when it is daytime, like it is right now, you can see this, the very blue light of the sky right now. That is telling your body that it's daytime. It's time to be awake. So you're producing cortisol, it keeps you awake. You have a whole cortisol rhythm. But when it's time to go to bed, the sky changes colors. Your brain gets a different signal. It's time to produce melatonin. It's time to start winding down. Some actions and steps you can take to have better sleep. Set a bedtime that you don't compromise on, that is just as important as you going to work. Maybe even more important than you going to work is just going to bed on time. Have a pre-sleep routine that trains you to relax. This is really just about getting out of your head and not thinking about the responsibilities you have to deal with. Now, your end of day routine could look something like reflecting on the day, thinking of things you could do better, and writing out what you have to do tomorrow. And then for pre-sleep, it could just be journaling out your feelings, any random thoughts that you've been dealing with, meditating, and reading some fiction. The point of reading some fiction is just to get your mind off of the activities you want. But if it actually makes your mind more active, you might be better off just meditating before bed. The point is to wind down. If you get super lost or ingrained in a book, you might be worse off. But I'm never going to tell anyone to not read fiction before bed. As for your environment, you want to make your room cold, dark, and quiet. So get an air conditioner, even if it's a wall one or a portable one, then make it dark by unplugging all the lights, getting blackout curtains, and quiet by unplugging any appliances next to the bed. You also want to do that just to get rid of the EMFs that are next to you. I don't care what anyone says. Computers have electromagnetic fields. There is current going through them, and that affects your nervous system. There's no debating that. It's not woo-woo, and it's not paranoid. It's just another thing you can do to have better sleep. I'm not telling you to go ground your bed sheets, which there are people who do. I'm saying this is all just basic stuff you can do to have instantly better sleep tonight. Make sure the only thing you do in your bed is sleep. Your brain is like a computer. Your brain is a computer, and there's associative learning and habitual learning. Your body gets better at what you do frequently, and it will start to associate the places that you do things with the actions that you take in those places. So if you are scrolling on your phone in bed, your brain will associate scrolling on your phone and being mentally stimulated with being in bed. So don't scroll on your phone, don't watch TV, don't study for tests, none of that in your bed. Your bed is just for sleeping, nothing else. We're going to be talking about sunlight and nature and their effect on your testosterone levels. Now, sunlight, the most precious gold to be found on Earth. Roman pain. We cannot be healthy without exposure to sunlight. We've co-evolved with the sun for millennia. There is no separating our ideal healthy selves, our ideal high testosterone selves, with exposure to the sun. Now, I would have an infographic on how that induces vitamin D production and all the other downstream benefits, but instead it's just another melatonin production one, so we're going to skip that. What you need to understand is that daily sun exposure means you produce more vitamin D, you're going to have a faster metabolism, and you're going to have a more heavily regulated circadian rhythm. This is going to lead you to being less depressed, less anxious, having higher testosterone, and being overall happier and live a healthier quality of life. Healthy, high quality life. You want to have morning sunlight exposure. So this is just a good practice to have for your sleep, but also just for life. Get outside after you wake up, look at the horizon, bada bing, bada boom. You want to be exposing yourself to plants and nature frequently. Why is this? The nervous systems of plants calm our nervous systems. You will get into a more parasympathetic, relax, rest and digest state if you are in nature. This is actually why places like Grand Central Park were invented. People were getting too depressed and anxious without any exposure to nature while living in New York, so they incorporated parks like that. And the anxiety levels, the self-ending that went on declined drastically after they implemented those. And now it's in every single city across the US. Why? Because we need to be connected to nature. Other cool exercises would be cold exposure. Now, it doesn't have to be the 30-minute ice baths that you see on Instagram or the cold plunges that you see promoted by biohackers. But if you go outside when it's cold outside and go for a walk, or you take a cold shower, this does have some benefit. Will it be the end of you if you don't? No. Will it make or break your testosterone production or your health? Definitely not. Spending time in nature and spending more time in the sun are the top two things you will do. We also want to talk about augmenting your environment to you having higher testosterone. This is going to come down to you minimizing estrogenics, endocrine disrupting chemicals, and plastics. So stop drinking out of plastic water bottles, get a shower filter, get a water filter, drink out of glass water bottles, and eat from glass Tupperware. Ditch all the polyester clothes, replace with cotton or wool. Ditch all of the soaps with tons of chemicals and just get something simple like olive oil or beef tallow. Other things you can do is ditch the fragrances, the wall plugs, the colognes. These all have an effect on our hormones, and it's integral that you don't use those things to have healthy testosterone. If you do all the other stuff I talk about, you're going to be fine, but this is just other stuff that you want to do to optimize your health and your testosterone. So here are some action items. Go outside first thing in the morning and walk for 10 minutes while you look at the sunrise. It's pretty easy to do. But there's more. You want to spend 1 to 2 hours per day with direct sunlight on your body. The more time you spend outside in the presence of sunlight, the better. Well, there are extremes that you don't want to cross. But if you're outside in sun for an hour or two a day, that would be enough for you to be healthy. So do your work outside when you can. If you're making a YouTube video like I am right now, it's better to do it outside than just to do it inside. Natural lighting is better than artificial lighting. And then you also want to watch the sunset, and you can take your walks in the park. If you have computer work, buy a laptop and do it at a park. It's or at a bench where there's trees nearby. I'm not saying to be a hippie. I'm saying to optimize what you can. And if you can get some benefit passively by just being around more trees, then do it. Now, the sixth pillar of the high testosterone habits is just to manage your stress. We need stress in order to evolve and adapt, but too much stress all at once, and the system, us, will collapse. So we want to be strategic and gradual with the stresses that we apply to the system, us. Chronic stress will kill you faster than cigarettes and alcohol. Another good example of this would be lifting way too heavy way too often, or lifting way too heavy way too fast. If you're new to the gym, you're not going to want to bench press 500 pounds right away. That would just be idiocy. And if your max bench press is 405 pounds, you probably don't want to be benching 495 every single day. That will lead to you having worse outcomes. An example I like to use to demonstrate this, that's like a training specific metaphor. What I really want you to focus on is how stress is worse for you, even if it's stressed about being healthy. There's this meme that's going around about how old Italian men are healthier than Brian Johnson. Old Italian men chain smoke and drink. They live by the sea. They don't really cut their calories. They just kind of eat what they want. They mostly play cards with their friends all days, and they haven't exercised since World War II. And they kind of live just like a meh lifestyle. And they're not stressed. They have friends that they love to hang out with. Whereas you have Brian Johnson, who spent decades being absolutely stressed, not taking care of his health at all, and now he's super stressed about being healthy. So he's taking hundreds of supplements every day, not taking any booze or doing any substances, working out every single day neurotically. He's having his health tracked extremely neurotically to degrees that pretty much no pro athlete has ever done. And then he's spending $10 million a year on his health, whatever that means. Stressed about being healthy is sometimes worse than being unhealthy. And you have to understand that you want to have good practices, but if it's stressing you out to the point that you're unhealthier for doing them, you need to change. So we're going to get into a bit of stress management, how to avoid chronic stress, because cortisol destroys testosterone. If you are chronically stressed, we're not just talking about like mildly stressed here. We're talking about can't sleep, cortisol dominant, has an effect on your ability to function in your day-to-day life and just ruining your physique and your performance. You are going to need changes in your nervous system. You're going to need changes in how you deal with your day-to-day life. The first thing you want to do is reflect on what's causing you stress. There's a saying that Jeff Bezos, that stress doesn't come from work. It comes from avoiding the work you feel like you should be doing. Normally, it's just responsibilities that you're avoiding or things you're just putting off that you feel like you should be doing. You're never going to be stressed about things you don't feel like you should be doing. And understand that if you don't want to do them, you don't have to do them. But if there's something inside you that feels like you should, that's just a sign for you to do it. Like if you feel like you should do it, why aren't you doing it? But take note that that's what's stressing you out. And if it's something like a moral conflict or a bad habit you're ashamed of, or you have a trauma, you're going to want to get into some inner work. Therapy, self-healing books, or even spiritual healers play a massive role when it comes to addressing trauma and getting rid of negative patterns and emotions that have been ingrained in you from mostly your parents. A lot of early development hasn't prepared people for living a good quality life. So invest in inner work, therapy, self-healing books, and spiritual healers. Some other things you can do. This is just how do you actually deal with like the internal aspect of it. Like how do you navigate the world to deal with that stress? How do you navigate yourself to deal with that stress? And some practices you can do if you're getting overwhelmed or just to practice mitigating stress in and of itself are things like breath work, meditation, prayer, journaling, or time in nature. These things will directly relieve your stress, the symptom of stress, and train you to be less stressed. And then you're going to want to change in your mindset that encourages you to take responsibility instead of running from your problems. This will reduce stress at its root. If you're worried about being out of shape or fat or unhealthy or anything that happens because of those things, you just need to take responsibility and eat less food, become less fat, be more, and just do those things so you don't have to stress about that because you've done everything you can. And then you want to be better at managing yourself, your life, your finances, your relationship, your kids, everything. Create systems around those things so that you don't have to stress. Structure reduces stress. Systems reduce stress. And then I want you to cut out things that stress you out. So that comes down to treating yourself like your own kid. You're never too old to remove yourself from toxic situations. This is something that like especially men, get wrong. It doesn't make you tough to put up with people that treat you like garbage. There's nothing wrong with kicking people out of your life who do not treat you the way that you want to be treated. People are unkind. If people are crossing boundaries, you do not have to have them in your life. An easy way to think of this is to think of yourself as a kid, or to look at the little boy or girl you used to be. Treat them like your own child that you are protecting. If you had your own kid, treat yourself like your own kid. If someone was talking to your kid the way that someone is talking to you, how would you respond? Well, you can do two things if someone's not treating you appropriately. You can address them, and if they change and understand, then, or there's a misunderstanding, then that's that. But if they persist, you don't have to have those people in your life. And you need to work on making yourself secure in being just by yourself, so that you aren't stuck dependent on other people in relationships because you're too afraid to be alone. This is just an infographic about like understanding your early childhood traumas. If you heal those, you will notice a drastic shift in the quality of your life. Most of your stressors and trauma come from your early childhood. Now, here are some action steps you can take. Take action on your responsibilities daily. As a man, as an adult, you have responsibilities that uphold structure that let you live the life that you want. Outside of that, you can kind of do whatever you want. Really, like you can just be a kid and kind of just have fun. Nobody ever tells people that. Just because you have some grand mission that you're pursuing doesn't mean that that's all you do. I think that takes away a lot of people's sense of wonder and enjoyment in their life. What you have is just inputs into processes that yield outputs that get you close to your goals every day. Outside of that, you do need time to decompress and just be a kid and have fun. That's actually how you're going to learn and grow in a way that allows you to pursue your goals better. And at a certain point, too much work doesn't actually move you forward. It's why like the work more every day doesn't always work. Work works, but let's say I'm trying to be a pro swimmer, right? Does going to 2-hour practices a day make me Michael Phelps? No. I mean, if that was the case, then I would already be Michael Phelps. There are countless kids across the country, countless people who are training 2 hours multiple times per day to be the best in the world. So why then can't we do another 2-hour practices and expect to get better? Well, because you have to recover and you have to be intentional with the work that you do, and you have to understand that you have to progress and you have to be intentional. And you have to balance stimulus and recovery. And if you're doing too much, that's just as bad as not doing enough. So then outside, let's say you only get an hour to 2 hours of effective training in per day. Yes, there's other stuff you do outside of training to help you get better or to get you towards your goals, like your nutrition, your sleep, and all these other things I'm talking about. But outside of that, what else are you doing with your life? Is it allowing you to learn and grow? Are you enjoying doing those things outside of practice or outside of work or outside of training? If not, you need to change that, because those are the things that are actually going to allow you to learn and grow. Enjoying your life, which doesn't mean it is not the same thing as pleasure, right? Pleasure comes from what you get, and enjoying comes from what you do, right? We're going to talk about low testosterone habits in the next one, but if you're like eating cookies and cake, it's not from you. That's pleasure. If you're watching Netflix, that's pleasure, and entertainment is pleasure. Whereas if you are reading about something you're really interested in, or you're playing a game that you like with your friends, or you're studying some cool subject, or you're learning some other skill, or you're working on a project, or you're building some software, like what other thing interests you that you can get really good at, all that is going to help you get better at the main thing you want to get at. Miyamoto Musashi talked about that. To become a better swordsman, you have to become a better painter or better at pottery. Find things outside your daily inputs that you have fun with. And then that was only number one. Number two is going to be, when external stress you out, address them internally with self-talk, journaling, and therapy. When external stress you out, address them internally with self-talk, journaling, and therapy. So actually addressing what's going on inside, and then address the problems outside or externally by solving the problem or removing the stressor. So that's dealing with a financial situation, dealing with a relationship situation or a health situation by actually solving the problem or just removing the thing that caused it. So it could mean working out something in a relationship if it's stressing you out, or getting rid of the relationship if it's not going to change. I hate to be very binary, but in general, it comes down to those two things. Now, and then you want to review your goals daily. Stay focused on the vision, on the things you have to do to get there, and the mindsets it takes to do it. And then you want to forgive yourself for messing up. Self-forgiveness is so underrated, but you need to work on forgiving yourself for messing up, because we're human. We're always going to mess up. But that is also how we learn and how we grow. Stop beating yourself up for things that you can't change, and just learn from them and vow to do better. And then I want you to practice mindfulness always. Always be present. All your problems exist in your mind. And so there's a monk named Dan Goldfield on Instagram who talked about how after he got the hold the hang of eternal mindfulness, all his problems went away because they were all in his mind. That would be a wonderful practice. If you have mental work, it might be harder, but you want to dedicate at least 30 minutes daily to pure meditation. This is going to help improve your focus, your happiness, cognitive capabilities. So be as present as you can, but have a dedicated 30-minute, even an hour-long session where you meditate every day. And then I want you to ditch low testosterone habits. So I'm very passionate about this. Bad habits that you have are at the expense of the good habits that you have. Now I want to get down to the graph, but we can go over the quotes that I had laid out here first. Every decision you make is a vote for the person you want to be. James Clear. There's no being an unhealthy person and a healthy person at the same time. You can't be fat and ripped at the same time. You can't be jacked and small. You can't be weak and strong. You can't be how you do one thing is how you do everything. If you're a delayed gratification, high effort person, a disciplined person, you're going to be that person in all areas of life. So look at the actions that you're doing and where those lead you, but also what kind of person that makes you and the characteristics and character that goes with making those decisions and having those actions. I like to say, this is a quote, I'm quoting Samuel Johnson here, but this is just a saying at this point to me. The chains of habit are too weak to be felt until they are too strong to be broken. What that means is all those little things that you know you shouldn't be doing, or that you aren't really being mindful or intentional with, don't really seem like a big deal or like something you have to deal with until they won't go away. I believe we can all change and we can always change, but but it is so much easier to just not start doing something bad than it is to quit it. You've been doing it for years on end. That's why I like to say it's never just one drink. It's never just one hookup. It's never just one puff. It's never just one angry outburst. It's never just one anything. It's never just one. Normally it's just one is just an aspect of your character that you haven't addressed. So don't do anything that you wouldn't do for the rest of your life once. I'm going to get into the action specifically, but this goes into instant gratification versus long-term gratifying compounding action. The instantly gratifying things give you the reward you want instantly, but have no real long-term compounding or value. So then it ends and you're forced to go get another short-term gratifying thing. And then it ends and then you're forced to get another and another and another. A good example for this would be hookup culture. You want someone to be intimate with. And so you go out of your way to find someone, and because you're only looking for that, none of the people who want relationships are going to want that with you. And so you are going to be attracting people who really have no long-term mate value, because essentially you're signaling that neither do you, or you're in a phase of your life where you haven't figured that out yet. And so you hook up and you get the gratification. And what's worse is you're graining in your system to make intimacy a form of dopaminergic reward, which you ingrain in your nervous system. So then the act of intimacy becomes about the pursuit instead of the intimacy in and of itself. And so then you go through the cycle where maybe you get through like lots of people over the years. Whereas if you are very intentional and you look for someone that you would want to marry and be with for the rest of your life, then maybe you are intimate for a while, a year, 2 years, 3 years, because you're looking for the right person. And in order to do this, you have to figure yourself out and know what you want. And sometimes that's the hardest part. Right? Just knowing who you are, what you want, and what you're not going to, go back on. But maybe you find the right person and you date them and you're, screening them out and seeing whether or not you guys are a good fit and if you connect. But once you have that all figured out and you start to grow in the relationship and you're not going to be with anyone else, you can really start to invest and grow over time and get compounding returns in the long run. So, maybe this person's having the instantly gratifying person is having more fun for the first 3 years or 2 years or however long it takes them to be miserable. And for the first 3 years, like you put your head down and you're like really just trying to find the right person and you don't get any reward until you really find your person. And then you start the relationship and slowly you grow over time. And then it just really compounds and takes off. In 10 years, you're going to be so much further ahead in that relationship than that person who just kept looking for quick hits. And remember, because they were looking for quick hits, even if they start looking for a long-term relationship, like year 5, they still have to put in the time to work on themselves, their character, and then finding the right person so that by year 10, they're like miles behind you. And I'm not saying that this to compare yourself to other people, but to your two potentials. So the you who hooks up for 3 years or 5 years is really just going to be 10 years behind the you who was just doing the right thing from the beginning or the long-term thing from the beginning. So that type of mindset can be applied to anything. Corn is just absolutely horrible for men. and their mental health and their sexual energy, which is their life energy. It's one of those same things where you're basically conditioning your brain to get its ultimate reward for replication by not doing any work and just staring at a screen. So you really, really do not want to do this. And then you could apply the same thing to alcohol, weed, and then hard substances versus therapy, meditation, journaling, and actually fixing your life. These feel good in the instant, but over time just put you further in the hole. Whereas the other things, they kind of suck at first and they take work, but then over years, they really, really compound and take off. Same with junk food binges, late nights. Junk food binges, eating unhealthy food, fast food, like it tastes good for an instant, but it leads to you having a worse body and mind and life and less energy. Healthy food might not taste good at first, mostly because there's so many addictive chemicals in the food supply. The same principle applies to junk food binges, fast food, and just unhealthy food that you shouldn't be eating. It tastes good for a moment, not even because it tastes good. It's because the addictive chemicals that food scientists have been paid to engineer in order to hijack your brain to make you want that food. It feels good for a second, but then it leaves you feeling terrible, hurts your hormones, your energy, and your performance. On the flip side, if you eat real food, healthy food, it tastes great. You just might not think so in the moment because it's not as exciting as the cocktails that companies have been engineering to hijack your brain. But over time, it tastes much better, and over time, you feel so much better because you're eating healthier food on a consistent basis, on a schedule. Your quality of life is better. Escapism. So this is you not dealing with life by gossiping, causing drama, talking to your friends, constantly scrolling on your phone, endlessly watching TV shows instead of working on creating a life that you love to live. In the moment, it feels good to escape into these things because it feels good and we don't have to think about life at all. But over time, it really starts to bite you in the butt and it digs you in a hole that you might not be able to get out of. So it might be painful for an instant, but face the life you don't want and create one that you do want instead of escaping from it and actually never changing it. So then you're just stuck in the life that you don't want. In order to do this, you need to ditch the victim mentality where you're avoiding responsibility and instead decide that you happen to your life, that you are the author of your story and you hold the pen. So a victim mentality says that life happened to them, life's bad, they've been dealt a poor hand. They've been dealt a poor hand, that life is just happening to them. Instead of taking responsibility for where they are at in life and choosing to change it, that giving all their power away to things outside of themselves, blaming other people for their lives and where they're at, instead of saying that they're instead of taking responsibility for themselves and their life, which hurts for an instant because you have to come to terms with you not being responsible for your bad situation and that hurts your ego. But over time, as you work on solving those problems and taking responsibility for them, you actually have a better life. But you can't do that until you get out of your victim mentality and stop blaming other people for your problems. That's just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to talk about Netflix over training. So it's when you prioritize entertainment and comfort over your own growth and your own health. So what that means is that it feels good to sit and watch Netflix for a little bit, but it's coming instead of going to training because you aren't going to have to deal with the pain or the uncomfortability. But over weeks and months, you're going to start to regress in your physique, in your health, and you're really not going to feel good. Whereas if you go to train, it might hurt for a little bit, but then you're going to see progress and you're going to grow. If you choose to go to the movies or be entertained, it might feel good for a second, but it really leads you nowhere. Whereas if you get educated, it might hurt and nothing might make sense at first, but over time, knowledge compounds and you grow into someone that you can't recognize. Video games might make you feel like you're accomplishing something and you're doing something, but really it's all in a simulated world that instead of actually going out and achieving things, which takes time and progression, you're just starting over a video game or you're going to the next level in a video game that doesn't even exist. And then you finish the video game and you're on to the next one. So you're just starting over instead of investing in the video game of your life. And then we have gambling, where you give all your power over to chance and you throw your money away. Instead of it, because there's the opportunity to possibly make a lot of money all at once, instead of making the harder decision to invest in the long-term option, which is investing in yourself, your own skill sets, and into investment opportunities instead of building something that has value for the long term. So ditch instant gratification and invest in long-term delayed gratification, compounding things. So the first step is just going to be ditching all those bad behaviors that I talked about and swapping them out for the good alternatives. The second one is going to be, I already talked about this. Swap the scrolling, TV watching for learning, reading, and writing. Swatch hookups and corn for dating to marry. Drop drugs and substances. Drop substances for therapy, meditation, and creating a better life. Stop blaming other people and giving away your power, and instead take total responsibility for your life. Stop skipping the gym for Netflix. Skip the parties, bars, and nightclubs and late nights for early nights, hitting your goals, healthy eating. Swap gambling for investing. Swap the dead-end job for a career you're actually interested in. This is a very comprehensive video on the mindset stuff and the habit stuff and the actions you need to be taking. And some of it might feel a little overwhelming or like a little too much. But you have to understand this is the difference between you becoming who you want to be and you having a transformation of self like this. And if I'm being honest with you, like there were plenty of instances where I stayed up late or watched or saw blue light before I went to bed and avoided responsibility. And there's stuff I didn't implement until much later in my life. And I still made it this far. I can only imagine how much further ahead I would be if I'd known all this and just taken action on it every single day, knowing that I could have been more than this. And so I want you to do the same thing. This is what I want you to do is imagine that this is guaranteed for you, that you'll transform into some beefcake Viking looking person, even if you mess up 10 to 20% of the time. Although I never miss a gym session or my diet. But imagine how good you could be if you locked in for 5 to 10 years. You would be unstoppable. You would be unrecognizable. And in reality, you don't want a life where you have any of the results from those things that I told you not to do, and you don't want a life where you're not on top of your life. You don't want to feel lost. You don't want to feel mediocre. And so don't settle for that.